I take it, based on my conversation with you, I, you mentioned your grandkids must be an inspiration behind the creation and development of Trio, correct? I think you have a backstory to that, correct? Am I wrong?
No, you're right. Yes. And as I mentioned, 19 years ago, I witnessed the birth of my grandson. And so that was a transformative process and transcended time and space. And that was led and inspired. What can grandpa do to give back, to be an active participant in my grandchildren's lives? But then the thought was, well, it's not grandchildren. What about all grandkids? And as I traveled, I, I have thousands of grandkids now, grandpa all over the place, from real kids from 6 to 65. So they all call me grandpa. But that has been the beauty and blessing of this journey to be of service, not be served, to be of service, to give back. And we think about a legacy. What can I leave for my grandchildren? Hopefully I leave a legacy of curiosity, of imagination, of that follow your dreams, and that our dreams can become reality if we believe them. And so believing in ourselves, but also realizing that we have a responsibility.
Yeah.
How we develop our gifts and talents, and that we can discover the full expression of our abilities by using them to help others.
Yeah.
That for me has been the most amazing thing. You can do things and your gifts, and you can only look at, I'm only going to enrich myself with these things. And then that's what I was initially doing. I was just enjoying all the success, financial independence of a career in the IT field, but I hadn't done anything to give back. It was when the impulse to be of service and to give back that I really started to tap into what my talents really were, what I really could do in this field. That I wasn't just limited to just selling software applications and making big money, but that I could be a developer, an innovator, and that I could help other ones as well. And so that was massive. And so how do we help others to discover that kind of mindset shift can help promote massive growth, exponential growth in our own development personally and professionally, using our gifts and abilities to give back to, and because it's a cycle that as we're giving and helping others, we're learning and we're enriching ourselves and developing as we're helping others. And it's a perpetual engine. And if used correctly, it can be one of for economic growth as well. And so that's also part of the roles of education's vision is how do we, help communities in their economic development in the area of revitalization. And so one of the projects in the House of Flying Dragons is the Rose Cedar Project, community economic development, area revitalization, and with the House of Flying Dragons being a physical hub of the center of innovation and lab, but also one that is not just something that people come to, but how does it spread out into the community?
Yeah.
I've been to trees where they have these beautiful centers where people come in and they get all this money or something, beautiful surroundings, all manicured, but just outside the gates, you got garbage and stuff, and people it's like outside the Taj Mahal. Right outside the hall, you have the street vendors, you have beggars, you have all this stuff, but inside we want to see the rows of education and the House of Flying Dragons being, like I said, that garden, but that one that spreads and one that helps to enrich the environment and the lives of people around. And so, the idea that, so really I call the vision for 50 years for the Eden 3 Mars colony, but then there's also the Eden 1 and Eden 2. So basically 3 things. So Eden 1 is here on terra firma. So terrestrial. Eden 1 is the terrestrial expression of the road of education and what we've been doing, building this international platform and how we've been growing as an organization. The Eden 2 will be virtual. That'll be our virtual presence and online, and because what we envision is that not only will all these countries that have visited and these organizations that we partnered with, they'll be part of our online ecosystem. They'll all be playing the same game, the languages, and all be feeding into the development of these games. So they become stakeholders. They become part of our crowd development initiative, that we're not looking just to be selling to folks, that these individuals and these organizations will become stakeholders and part owners of what we develop together in their countries. And they become distributors and co-developers. But then we'll all share a similar ecosystem, all tied together through these games. And these games then become a funnel for the research we'll be doing for the academic large language model, and for the research for the type of games that we'll be using to play in space, and then also for the creation of the Mars colony, which is the phase 3. And so that's the kind of the phases that we're working through, and kind of finally starting to come together. It's taken me 13 years to wrap my head around this vision. And because imagine initially in 2010, this
Yeah.
whole thing, this vision fully formed.
Wow.
It was already formed. The Mars colony, okay, the date. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? How am I supposed to get there from here? What do I do about space tourism? What do I do about education and games and all this stuff? But one of the things I believed in is that I believed I could learn. So, okay, all right. I just like, I had 50 years, so I give myself some time to learn what I need to learn. I get I give myself a lot of time to learn and to travel, and so that's what I've been doing
Excellent.
past 13 years, and traveling past 9.
Excellent.
And that's what we are
Excellent.
today.
Excellent. I just want to wish you a congratulations for your grandchildren or grandson who has been part of this great product, part of the inspiration, creating something so phenomenal. I want to ask you about the eating too. How will it look like, especially with your collaboration with other countries?
Yeah, so what we're envisioning then is the first step is developing the network, and so we have a network and connecting them in a meaningful way online, like having an online. So actually, the first step was, and we've already started, and because the Rose of Education was born online
Okay.
as a LinkedIn open group in September of 2010.
Okay.
We were incorporated. Trail was incorporated in November of 2010. So it was already born online.
Mm.
And it was through our online presence that I figured out where I was when I was going to Tanzania, who I was
Yes.
going to see, or India, what organizations I was going to meet up with. And so I used that group then. It's an open group. You guys can check it out online. And so I think I have a link, and I provided you with a link to all my social media links. So
Thank you.
Rose of Education was online, began as a group, and that really is where it all began. And so we'll grow from there through the website, through communities, whether it be Slack or WhatsApp, but ultimately, yeah, a virtual reality presence. But so through the games, because the games will be online, there'll be the videos for the dragon flying games, and for the fitness games, and for the virtual reality games. So we envision a whole ecosystem. The whole, yeah. So it'll be physical, virtual, and extraterrestrial.
Excellent. Excellent. I want to connect this to space industry and future projection. You have a really grand plan, a grand vision. And I think that it comes, interestingly, it's probably going to coincide with the effort that NASA is making to put boots on moon and possibly Mars. Elon Musk is doing the same. And if that's the case, the people are going to be living on moon, people are going to be living on Mars, and definitely they will have children, and those children needs to be educated and all those good stuff. But can you share your thoughts about the space industry and its potential? Why this industry is crucial for the future, and why it is vital for our community to also be part of this innovation. Because obviously, yeah, obviously you're doing a remarkable job. which
Well,
excites me so much.
yeah.
Please.
So that's a great question. And so I don't think it's so much about as it's a space industry, more
Okay.
as the space economy. It's the space economy.
Okay.
And so it's projected to be 4 to a $10 trillion industry in the 2040s. And
What?
so
Can you say that again?
about $10 trillion in the 2040s. See, the four trillion to $10 trillion by the 2040s. And so
Oh
that's
my
not too
God.
far. So
Yeah.
that's an industry. And if our communities want to be a part of it, we have to start now.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, especially so as it was really strategic in the way I wanted to approach it. I wanted to approach it from the fact that I'm not trying to build anything. We want to be the payload. We want to be, so whether they're living or working. So they'll be on the different space stations. We'll certainly have workers and colonists on the moon before Mars. And as far as how many colonists we'll have on Mars, it's not projected we'll have more than 50 colonists on Mars anytime before the next turn of the century, because how expensive it is. But the moon certainly, and space hotels and space touring, that's just ripe, and that will just continue to grow. And so we see that as an opportunity then to be that you can be involved in that industry, and from the space tourism standpoint, that as as I said, as games, as payloads, as part of the education system, like as part of the deliverables. Ultimately, we want the Dragons Fire flying game is part of our vision for an exotic custom concept flight vehicle. So yeah, it's basically, I want to build a flying surfboard to fly on the moon, or to fly past the International Space Station, or moon Elon Musk on the Space Dragon. So that, but we imagine that what kind of recreation, what can we harness the kinetic energy of the human body in motion to
Hmm.
create a kinetic energy propulsion system,
Hmm.
power turbines or that we could use in low or zero gravity to move from place to place, or even as a conveyance, as we're discovering new worlds. Imagine being on Mars and being on your own kind of hoverboard,
Hmm.
and powered by your own even movements, and we're not leaving a footprint, that we're to take samples. And so that's how we're viewing that, as the games will be researched for developing that type of technology. And the field's wide open. The space, the frontier is open for
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
And so I think our communities, and part of what Trails initially really focuses on how we empower communities and individuals, but also communities to also become stakeholders. And through these organizations that we're connected with around the world, that can become these innovation hubs and labs and places where, like I said, we will continue this garden to continue to grow and spread until it reaches the moon or Mars.
Thank you so much for that. I want to still stay on space industry and future projections. I know
Mhm.
NASA because I've interviewed one of the associate directors from NASA a while ago. NASA is really making a lot of effort to try to include a diverse population in its workforce. And I'm encouraged by that. And I think NASA is a trendsetter as it pertains to trying to, in my view, involve more diverse population within its workforce, literally. So my question to you is, as it pertains to other stakeholders in this space, Elon Musk is a giant in this space. Bezos is also a giant in this space, as Richardson is a giant in this space. So, how can these companies that are really great stakeholders in space industry, how can they encourage more diversity in the space industry, make it more accessible to underrepresented community? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the main takeaway from that is understanding who's writing the checks.
Hmm.
Because yeah, Elon Musk and Bezos and a lot, yeah, they're giants. Who's cutting the checks? Uncle Sam. Because the reality is that if you want to be a space power or be a superpower, you have to be a space power.
Okay.
And so with countries so China, India, now Japan, they've launched their JAXA, and you got countries in Africa, they're all stepping up.
Yes.
And so that I think it's a great opportunity for education, for bringing more diverse, because these countries, as they see about launching their space ambitions, realizing also that if they want to be part of the space economy and are considered a real superpower, that space is an important part of their development and education, digital transformation. The AUC has a big interest in that, though they still don't have as many countries that have adopted it, but still the opportunity for education and the U.S. And we all have to, if we look at that as an opportunity and understanding that for space entrepreneurs and ones looking to get into business, that aligning that with Uncle Sam's, what their initiatives are, and that realizing that's where the money, they're the ones cutting the checks. That's where the money's coming from. And we can align ourselves with to make sure we can be a part of that. And any effort that helps align the communities, that brings in diverse stakeholders. So that's how also the Rose of Education is positioning itself, so that we can partner with organizations like yours, like A-Steam Guilds, like organizations in India or in Africa. In Kenya, there's a space academy in the Kibera slums, the largest urban slum in Africa.
Wow.
I visited a space academy there. And so even in Ethiopia, they have a space academy. It's really growing. And so I think that the future is bright. The future is really bright. There's a lot to look forward. And so, yeah, there's not a lot of diversity now, but it's coming. That wave is coming. We all have an opportunity to be a part of that. And Rose of Education looks to be a connector and provide a platform, a garden-like experience for creativity and curiosity and imagination to just flourish.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the CHIPS earlier, the CHIPS and the Science Act that was signed into legislation. I think that's one great way in which we actually, as a diverse population, can be part of this through the universities, especially the HBCU schools. I think focusing on the STEAM industry, I think it's time to ramp up our efforts, encouraging more minorities to go into STEAM field and seeing the future and the possibility that STEAM can offer. So us sitting back and just waiting also for these opportunities to come to us, I think we cannot really take it for granted any longer. We have to make efforts through all opportunities like the university, like the HBCU schools to ramp up our efforts of encouraging, recruiting more of diverse minorities to pursue a career in this field, and also education, degrees in those fields. Talking about legacy and preparation, preparing future generation. I love what you said. You're continuously bringing it back to your grandchildren. And I think that is what we, the older generation, needs to continue to consider, especially as we look into the future, right? So you mentioned your grandchildren and the desire to build a legacy. How does your work with Chill Inc. contribute to this legacy?
Again, the vision be to establish a moon or Mars colony, which would be expression of what the Rose of Education's vision is of this inclusive vision that um, that that we're really just one world, and that how do we represent all of us, and that project, that Eden project, is really meant to be an expression of that the collective wisdom of humanity can solve all the problems that we're facing. And so it's really meant to, and so that is really hopefully any legacy that I would leave for my grandchildren is really just this journey, and that, and really just the knowledge that we just really are one.
Yeah.
And Eden is an acronym. Eden is an acronym for each day, every name.
Hmm.
And so the roads of education, all these projects and all these missions is that each day and every name may be blessed. That
Hmm.
is the vision. That is what Roads of Education is for. So the Eden Project, we want to have really that the legacy would be a community where each day and we see the blessing. We
Yeah.
see blessing not only in ourselves and each day that we wake up, but in each other, and that we are one. And the language game is meant to be an expression of that, sharing our names, what are our real selves, who we are inside, the letters of our name in an application. We share our stories with one another from different parts of the world and find that we really are the same. We laugh at the same things. And this is part of that kind of ecosystem with the games that will connect people not only in the physical fun, but also in a real meaningful way with our stories that can resonate with people that we will find that we have connections and similar stories, people that
Yeah.
we wouldn't even have thought. And that's what they hope, that we can connect people that would not have initially connected, and that we've learned a little bit. And we each try to be better and do
Yeah.
better each day.
Excellent.
And yeah, and to dream
Excellent.
big, play hard, give back, and have fun. That's really what's about.
I like that. So what steps can parents, educators take to help children identify their strengths and prepare for a career in STEAM? Like, what you're trying to do to inspire and to instill in your own grandchildren.
There's been a growing movement. When I started, traveling, one of the things I connected with and even volunteered in Germany, there's organizations, the Democratic School philosophy that they've launched, where they don't have traditional classes or classrooms. An organization like Classrooms Without Walls, they're
Mhm.
really looking to engage those students who may have been viewed or identified as trouble students or problem learners, and it just turns out that they weren't being given the resources or they weren't given the dignity of the individuals that they learn, taking the time to, education system doesn't take time to learn how these young kids learn or to at least try to figure it out. And so this democratic schools and something like the Montessori concept in the schools as well. So that's growing, and we're seeing it more and more. And I would say we just need just more of it, more of an adoption, more of an openness from educators. But anyway, to them adopt those kind of things, but ultimately their hands are constrained by all the policies and all the regulations. For teachers, one of the things I learned is that their focus is, how do I get this student from sixth grade to seventh grade? How do and introducing something into their process that something else new that they learn, that just will it really have results that they're looking for? It can be, it's really difficult. And so that was also one of the challenges, and that I see, whether it's not the teacher's fault, it's just the system that they're in. And so how do we change the system? They can't some teachers have success. I don't know. I've had teachers who were just brilliant, who were able to turn dry information into just such engaging classes. But not all teachers are trained or have that love, and they're underpaid, overworked. So it's such a challenge. And one of the things I saw as I traveled around, and how could I make the delivery of these offerings of these games as hopefully an aid to supporting the work that they're already doing in class, make it as easy as possible to digest it. So just like with the real names game, they're doing stuff on the chalkboard already, and just make it a part. They don't have to learn anything else. Take a dictionary out. And so it became an easy process. And then even in areas of schools that didn't even have a playground or just had dirt and rocks or just concrete, we're showing how you can something like a coconut or tree branches or rocks, and that we turn it into a dragon flying exercise, and that there's way to deliver education in a way that can be accessible without it being cost prohibitive.
Yeah, just listening
Slow,
to you. Go ahead, finish your thought, please. Go ahead, please. Yes.
it just takes a little imagination. That's it.
Okay.
And that's really one of the taglines of the Rose of Education. One of our hashtags is just imagine.
Okay.
Just imagine. People say just do it or this and that, but say just imagine.
That is really awesome. Listening to you takes me back to the conversation that I was having this week with one of my colleagues. He said one of the problem with education is he said there's too many technology. He said, look at when we all grew up, look at how we turned out, right? We didn't have all this technology back then. And then another teacher said, we need to decentralize education. That's also one of the issues with education nowadays. There's too many red tapes. There's too many policies. There's so many stuff playing. It handicaps the hands of the teachers, educators, and administrators. Anyway, I just wanted to share that thought with you. What do you say?
So that, and by you meant that created a thought in my mind is that really, I think what we're trying to get, what I really look at is that we are the technology. It comes from us. It's an expression of us. And we think it's separate. And so the way I looked at it is that, wait a minute, I am all these things that I envision and embody, that I embody those, and understanding my processes is just an articulation of that framework or wireframe of this application. And that instead of viewing it as something separate, but that we are biotechnological machines, organic machines, when even in the way I view myself and even with my physical exercise, I think about, I train myself like a machine. I train myself to operate like a machine. When I was working construction, building, I got to the point where I could build a 200-foot fence from the ground up, digging the post hole, planting the post, doing all in 3 days.
Wow.
Because I was like, at this process, I just had this process where that's how I operate in the most efficient way. That's how I found a way, how I basically trained my body or learned how train my body to work really efficiently, effectively. And and the dragon flying game grew out of that as well. But I think if we look at ourselves, not separate from technology, but that it is really an expression of humanity and our own processes. And if we understand our processes, our unique processes, we can then maybe find how we can improve current processes, because we may have a more efficient way of doing things if we can express those in a manner that could become an application or product or solution. Then yeah, and that's really the kind of the goal. And how we do that is, I think it's open, because we all learn differently. Not everybody, some people can read. Some people, they learn in the quiet without a bunch of distractions. But others like myself, I need the raucous, and I need to be down in the creek, rolling around, hollering, laughing. And yeah.
Excellent. So I take it that you disagree with the thought that technology is a problem. I think what I'm hearing from you is that technology can be very helpful, especially we are also technological in our construct. Correct? Please.
You mentioned that because one of my other examples of the jobs is I'm a training coordinator for a nonprofit cybersecurity training, education, and certification organization. And so one of our models then is people, processes, and technologies. Technology with a small t, because when it comes to cybersecurity, building a secure and mature cyber information security management system and preventing threats. And it's not about so much the technology, it's about the people, it's about the processes. And so we focus on technology. Technology is an enabler. And so it's really the people and the processes in place that really help determine how that technology is going to be applied. And if it's not applied directly in processing, but there's a problem with the processes or the people, then that's where kind of the weakest links are. And so shoring up, and that's where an industry that needs a lot of diversity of thought and experience. And so it aligns, so that Roads of Education has partnered with this organization that I work for, I don't work for them, Trail, contracted with the Holistic Information Security Practitioner Institute as to provide training coordinator services. And so using and because it aligns with our further goal of education and providing opportunities. Because just as you talk about the STEM landscape and opportunities for the space and cybersecurity, what about cybersecurity in space? The importance of protecting the assets, like with Elon Musk and Starlink, or with the space station or the satellites, and all everything that needed to support space operations from launch to land and everything in between. Protection of those systems from bad actors or from unintended access or illegal, all these things. How do you protect that information? Cybersecurity
Yeah.
is a big part of that.
Yeah. I'm glad you segue into challenges and opportunity in STEM and the space industry. If you can highlight the importance of STEM education and the space industry, and what challenges do you see for individual pursuing career in this space? And then what other opportunities do you see in this space, especially for students that are interested? After listening to this program, you've inspired them to want to pursue career in space industry. If you can speak on that. Yeah, and
Well,
by the way, remember you mentioned cybersecurity too. I love it. Please,
yes.
please.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of areas for people to pursue their different interests in STEAM or STEM. And so whether it be in gaming or think about whatever a person is interested in, but it goes back not only to what's available in the community to for these young people who may be interested, but also there's a responsibility on the individual who might be interested that, okay, how much research and how interested are you in it really? Have you become part of online organizations or at school or you think it maybe not too cool to be a part of that? There's a lot of challenges going up culturally, just as individuals who may want to pursue that. But I think it comes down to what are you passionate about?
Mm.
And then following that through. Dreams don't build themselves. Houses doesn't build itself. For dreams to become reality, it takes work. And how we view that work that we need to do to get where we want to, we can either view it as a choice. My kind of philosophy that I've taken up is that we can either view the world as a prison or as our playground.
Mm.
And so one is limiting, the other is limitless, and as well as the possibilities. So we look at at what we're pursuing as an opportunity to learn and to play and to grow, and that what how much fun it actually can be once you start talking to people who are doing the same things, and where at one point my thought of sitting down with a bunch of teachers and helping to develop networking events, I would never. And part of my education was becoming part of a steering committee for an education group who put networking events for educators, people who are in early childhood education, adult education. And I found myself not being an educator. Became a member of their steering committee. But that's because I was like, okay, I opened myself up to that. I said, okay, I need to learn this. If this is something I want to pursue, then I'm going to have to take it seriously, and I'm going to have to take steps to learn. And so I volunteered and had a meeting with the members and had a chance, even though I wasn't an educator, but I showed I was able to bring a unique perspective into it from a company standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And because the Rose of Education, just because of its name, it was really meant to focus in on that as a core value of the organization. But I think for individuals, we have to challenge ourselves. There's work that's got to be done, but understanding that what we learn during that journey and how we grow and just how much fun it actually turns out to be, that if we take that on ourselves and believe, and we start to learn to believe in ourselves and grow confidence and have experience we never would have imagined. And so there's a challenge, but there's a great reward at the end of that as well. Not at the end of it, but along the way, continue to experience those. And
Excellent. So, how can we, as educators, parents, better prepare our young people? We know opportunities are coming. We know the space industry is growing. You did mention, you did put a number to it, about $4 to $10 trillion. So how can we better prepare our young or inspire our young people within the BIPOC community to seize the opportunity to promote STEM education and diversity? Let me state that how can we better prepare our young people to seize opportunity in this growing industry? Excuse me.
I think firstly, we have to support their interests as parents, whether in the African American community or otherwise, even in India, or in countries like India or China. And one of the things, I lived in India for 2 years,
Yes.
and become an engineer or a doctor, or lawyer, or something like that, or an engineer. But there's so many engineering schools, but
Yes.
many of those graduates with BSCs and MSCs are working in call centers, and they're not really getting the hands-on uh, training and application. But that's growing now too, because of the opportunities growing now too, because of the success that India, that Israel has, India's organization. I think it's, as far as parents, we have to support the interest shown. And but I think that's the first step. Whether the opportunity, preparing them for this opportunity, it has to be seen. They have to see it. And so we have to create more visibility. And right now, like I say, you only see Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and space, all this stuff. And there's not a visibility in Africa. There's growing visibility of organizations like Space in Africa and South Africa's space industry, but it's still slow being something that's in front of our youth. And so that's where collaborations that the roles of education, Trail sees as a way to collaborate with organizations who are working in the STEAM fields, like yourself, who are working with schools, putting together programs. Hey, let's put together a program. At Grandpa Suits House of Flying Dragons, we're going to bring our space art to the school. We have to create an after school program. And so it becomes an opportunity then to bring it to the fore, to make it accessible and to introduce it. And I found it easier to do. I found it easier to do that in outside the country without having to go through a lot of the red tape that we have to do here in the U.S. I mean, I performed background checks while I was in Africa and so forth, but a lot of it though is the need is so great that they welcome any opportunity, and especially that they don't receive visitors or people donating. They're not getting a lot of donation dollars and so forth. And so I see that there's a great opportunity. But here in the States, then I see the opportunity for Trail is then partnering with, well, the same as we do in other countries, partnering with organizations like yourself and others that have access to schools that we can then collaborate, put together a program and apply for funding. And there's a lot of money for that, those kind of things. So I'm interested in talking or maybe collaborating with you and your organization to do such a thing as well. So maybe
Excellent.
we can chat more about that.
Excellent.